Good morning and welcome to another beginning drawing class. Today we're going to deal with pointillism. Now, pointillism, unlike just a regular drawing where you draw lines, what you're going to do is use the point, in this case, of the pen in order to put little dots where the lines are. So I've basically did a light drawing of what we're going to be doing, and that's what you'll be doing too in the beginning. You'll do your light drawing like we always do, and then instead of drawing the lines, you'll be using points on that line to create the line. Pointillism. And one of the things that is important, now when you normally draw, you've got your pen down here like this, right? But if you push down on it like what we're going to be doing, you'll end up with a short line, which is not what we want. Now in Japan, when they're doing calligraphy, they have their brush straight up and down like this. And that's what we're going to be doing in order to just get the point of the pen on the lines that we're going to be doing. And you want the points to be fairly close together, okay? So I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm just basically going to be following the lines that I drew. Now, I don't know this particular pencil drawing that I did to begin with, if you can see it, or enough of it, but what we have here is one of the guardians of the gate at Nara Koen, that's Nara Park in Japan. There were two guardians at the gate of the road that goes to Todaiji Temple in Nara, Japan, where I used to live, and where I was teaching conversational English. And so this figure, one of the guardians, was carved out of wood, probably 20 feet high. I mean, it's ginormous, but really beautifully done. In fact, while I was there, living in Japan at the time that they were doing this, I wasn't living in Nara anymore, but they refurbished those carvings. And of course, they're very famous in Japan. So I'm just following the lines that I have drawn. And one of the things that you'll find is they do paintings like this too, and you'll use the paint doing for the whole color that you're doing in a particular situation. And so, of course, as you can imagine, this is, it takes a lot of patience. And so some of you will enjoy doing it, and some of you might not even try, but I encourage you to. It's a different technique, and it's something different, and it certainly isn't going to hurt you to try it. So it is a technique that some people really enjoy. I mean, it's so different than anything else. But like I say, it does take a great deal of patience. So, okay, so as we continue down the face, now I'm just using black ink. But let's say you were doing some flowers or something of that nature. You would want to use the color of the flowers. You'd want to use the green for the stems or the, and it's much more interesting that way. Now what I'm just using the black because it's easier for you to see. And this particular subject is conducive to just doing a black. Now, in a situation like this where his mouth is, I want to kind of darken it in, so you just do that with dots as well. And let's say you were in a situation where you had some shading to do. Well, the dots that are closer together make it darker, and the dots that are farther apart would be your lighter areas. So that's the kind of techniques that you would use in order to get things looking the way you would want. So the same thing here on the ear. I'm looking at a painting. One of my students who was living and working in Nara with his father, he was a acupuncturist, and an acupuncturist, and a chiropractor. And he worked on me as a chiropractor one time, but I had never had anybody do acupuncture on me before, and so I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity. So that's what I did. He applied the acupuncture on me. It was very interesting. And when he got married, this young man, I was invited to the wedding, one of 2 Japanese weddings that I went to in the 7 years that I lived and worked in Japan, teaching conversational English. A really wonderful experience and opportunity, because at the time, I came back about 25 years ago, but at the time it was culturally such a different experience from anything I had ever done or experienced. And while I was there, many people came over to teach, and some people, because the culture was so different, within a week or 10 days, they went back either to our country or to Great Britain or Australia. There were Germany, people from all over the world who at the time were teaching in Japan. It was quite a wonderful experience. I made some wonderful friends while I was there. Okay, so one of the things I want to do here momentarily is to erase a little of the lines up above there so that, oh, excuse me just a second, forgot my tablet to do my erasing on. You got to keep your eraser clean, and one way I do that is use a tablet. So I'm going to try to erase any of these pencil lines so we get a good look at what it looks like. Now I have a little brush here that I'm just going to brush away. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go down in here. He has this necklace on, and it's rather interesting. Anyway, if now I know that originally this drawing class was going to be here at the Senior Center, and so most of us here are seniors, right? But I know now that there are people who are tuning in to various classes, and I encourage you to continue to do so. But if you are young enough to do something like that, there are many countries that allow people to come and teach English or various subjects. I know one year when I was in Venezuela, I met an Italian woman who was teaching English in Venezuela. So you just never know. In fact, that's the first opportunity I had to meet someone who was actually doing that. I was a fairly young man at that time. Okay, so as we continue, you're just dealing with the lines right now. So, yeah, here's a shoulder of our guardian, and these guardians are pretty ferocious looking when you see them I was going to say in the flesh, but actually in the wood. But this park, Nada Cohen, which is not a park, is a very large and beautiful park in Nara where they have deer that are running around free in the park while you're out there walking around, which was pretty cool. I'd never been to a park like that at that time. But once a year, they have a ceremony where they cut the antlers from these deer, and before they do, they let them charge each other, and so they get far apart, and then all of a sudden they smack into each other with their antlers. And it's a pretty dramatic experience for those of us who had never experienced anything like that before. And that too is one of the joys of living and working in a foreign country. Okay, so once you get a handle on it, you can start picking up the pace a little bit, which is what I have done here, to try and once you get a feel for how close you want the dots to be, and okay, so let's see here. So your dots basically are your lines. Instead of doing a line drawing, you're basically doing a dot drawing. And it does take some patience, as you will see. But I encourage you to at least try it. And you don't have to do anything as dramatic or as challenging as this is. If you don't want to, try something very simple and see, if you like this particular technique. Okay, so this is the underside of the arm. Now here is his side, and they have it darkened here. And so I'm going to darken it to kind of similar to what I did up above there, only here there's more area to deal with. So depending on, now here's a good example of, you want to be careful to keep the pen straight up and down so that you end up with just points, dots, and not little lines, which would change the whole look of your pointillism. Okay, so then we also have this side of our guardian. Okay, and on this side, can go all the way down. Okay, now this one is going to take a little more of the shading, which we're just doing with dots. But also, too, you want to make sure that as soon as you put it on the paper, you're leaving a mark. So you want to make sure that you put the tip of the pen where you want it to be. So as you can see, so if you were doing a painting, for example, and you were painting the flesh on this guardian, you know, you would have dark areas of flesh around this side like what we have here. And so you would be changing the color from dark to light, depending on, but you would be doing it with dots, little dots over the whole thing. And there are some masterworks that these paintings have been done with this technique. But for us, it's a lot easier using a pen, and in this case, just black and white, right? Just a black pen. You don't have to change colors. And a lot of those paintings were done with oil paint, so you know how long it takes for oil paint to dry. So I'm sure they were working in different areas while other areas were drying. And also people who work in oil work on a number of paintings at the same time to allow things to dry. Okay, so that's that, and then we have, this is a cloth streamer that's going around his body and up over his head for a dramatic effect, you know. Okay, and then for the stomach, they have this approach. And then this goes all the way around. So you're just following your lines, and now if you get the dots too close together, of course, it will be a line, but for example, see the eyes, how that, by coming real close together, you end up with your solid color, which is what you want in certain circumstances. Okay, so that just about does it, I think. So what I want to do now, hopefully, well, this is a good pen, so shouldn't be a problem with it not being dry. And the other thing too is once you erase the lines, you can see whether or not you want to go over certain areas. So let's see what we've got here. Okay. So a little bit darker in the center of the eyes. Okay, so basically that's the basic concept, and you can do that with a lot of different things. Like I say, you can use color, you can use pen, you can use paint, you can use all kinds of media, but the concept is the same. It's you're drawing with points. So that's all for today. Happy drawing, and see you next time. Thank you very much.